Hey, in this video, I'm going to be focused on what I think Gold and Plat players can take away from this game in terms of game sense and gameplay from the FUT versus Leviatan matches. I'm going to focus on two key aspects. One is how to prevent overreacting to communications from your team, which can cause over-rotates to happen. And two is using the process of elimination to find out where you should be playing and where the enemy might be playing. So let's dive into that first point. All right, for you Gold and Plat players, I want you to focus on two things here. Focus on these three and how they rotate throughout the map. And then I also want you to focus on Com's buy here. He has one trip on B and he has one camera on A.
Speak of the devil. He will be getting first contact, breaking that Roomba early on and just wants to give it there. A very slow approach from FUT, who got completely obliterated the last time they played this match against FPX.
The team we unfortunately just had to bid adieu to.
This is an awesome pistol round already from FUT, but the timing might not be there for them because Lev already ahead of this. That chip did not get broken.
Cage trigger.
They made a little bit of noise, but yeah, you're right. I don't know that it was enough. Lev have already put a lot of their defenses back here. Mazzino's looking to reposition with the utility that he can try to dump out onto the side. Meanwhile, FUT not really having created enough space to get out of elbow. Up until now, as Mr. Fallen's the tip of the spear, the first one to go. A flash in the face of Tex, and he cannot stand strong. He cannot hold on. And now it's on to King. A 1v5 and a disaster.
Okay, so hopefully you all were able to see how that round played out and how these three in particular kind of opened up the lanes for A. I want to dive into what this means for you all within Gold and Plat lobbies, specifically for ranked, right? So here's how the sequence went. It initially started off with Asbas's Raze over here on B. You had four kind of stacked up in B. The spike was over here somewhere. So the hit was always going to be fake B, go A. That's like the very dumbed down, like rudimentary version of the strat there. I'm sure there was much more involved. At one point you see Wingman coming out. I'm sure that at that point, the communication from Aspas to his teammates was, hey, Wingman's coming out on site. And then these two probably took that to mean it's probably going to be a plant, because why would they send Wingman out if not to plant? So they over-rotate, right? They overreact to that information. They come over from A to B. And what that does is now free up basically all of A, because Com was here by himself. And then from there, this is kind of the essential setup, right? Like they get onto site, they're planting, and then there's just like a duel right here in back of A, and eventually all of Leviatan goes down and FUT wins the round. I want to highlight the importance here for Gold and Plat lobbies specifically of one, not overreacting. So not overreacting. I'm great at writing on the fly. So not overreacting, right? Number one, what you saw here was an overreaction by the Breach and the Gecko. They overreacted to the communication that Wingman is coming out on site. Again, I don't have access to their comms, so it's very potentially obvious to me, but it could very much not have gone down that way, right? It definitely could have gone down a different way, where maybe the intention was get early info, see if anyone's here. If not, then rotate 5-stack B. Like that could have been the plan all along. But in Gold and Plat lobbies, that's an overreaction. You don't need to overreact to the fact that Wingman's coming on site. So that's one thing that I want you all to take away from this. When you hear a communication that somebody's on site, don't overreact to it. Don't immediately say, great, I'm going to come over here and we're going to 5-stack B now. Two, the second thing that I want you to understand is communicate back. So if your array says, hey, it's all B, they're all coming B, I hear so many of them. Your job is to say, okay, how many do you hear? What kind of agents are over there? Are they planting or are they not? You have to communicate back to your arrays now in an effort to try and make sure that you do not overreact to the communication that's happening and rotate to B. That is such a vital error that I see a lot of people in Gold and Plat make. And I made it myself going up through Gold and Plat, where you're taking in information, but you're not challenging that information in any way. You're not making sure that the information is accurate or correct. And then what that ends up leading to, quite honestly, is when you do overreact because you didn't ask the proper qualifying questions to determine if you should rotate, you get angry at your raise. You overreact, you rotate, and you say, Raise, why the hell did you tell us to come over here when there were 0 people coming on to B? And then it starts the toxic spiral. So I say all this to say it's not just a matter of over rotating. It's a matter of not communicating with your team in 2 directions, right? You have to have this communication first, right? So this raise has to kind of relay this information that, hey, there's a bunch of people. So they're relaying information to you that, hey, there's a bunch of people coming B. And then you have to relay that information back to them saying, hey, what do you mean? Like, what util is being used? Are they planting? Are they not? How many are on site? Did you give up site? There needs to be that back and forth. And without that back and forth, all you're going to be able to do is guess. You're in a guessing game if you don't communicate back. So yeah, it's important for you to make sure that you are not just not overreacting and over rotating so early in the round, but that you're almost over communicating with your teammates to ensure that the communications that you're getting are accurate and that you can actually take action on them. Okay, so before I let this round play out, I want you to pause this video in a second and determine where you think Breach should be focused and playing right now. Do you think Breach should be on C, helping Jet? Do you think Breach should be on B, helping Viper? Or do you think Breach should be on A, helping Cypher and Omen? So pause the video for a second, try to come up with your answer, and then I'm going to play the video out in its entirety.
Everything you got at him. And even then, he'll pop the dash and re-swing to continue on getting info.
Yeah, we'll see if he's challenged. Seems like he might.
I mean, the thing is right now for Lev, if you let the clock run down too low, I mean, that Prowler, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it seem like they're leaning towards C, but the fact that CNET is so disrespectful with the Jet here, I mean, it gives them info that they're leaning towards A.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe it.
Yeah, and they're going to cycle one way is at this door. If the trips get broken, the fault line's going to come all the way across. The clock is running down low right now, Doug, and the utility is going to be in favor of cracks, of FUT. It's not going to be an easy hit at all, and that Omen Flash is way too early, it feels like.
Oh, Aspas gets yoinked right back, but still lands the shots onto Mr. Fallen. I don't know how he hit that.
I have no clue how he just got that kill.
Okay, so for those of you that said C, you were wrong. For those of you that said B, you were also wrong. They inevitably ended up hitting A. And let me explain why, as Breach in that situation, you should have been focused on A and not on B or C. I'll start off with B because it's the obvious one. Viper ult is basically a round winner for the most part when it comes to holding sites like this. There's no person in their right mind that would push that, or no team in their right mind that would push that. It's very rare. So from a numbers perspective, on average, I would never bother to even try to support Viper here, considering that she's got her ult focused on, it was coming out, I think, all the way out to like right here. So there's really no world in which this Viper is going to get pushed. So Viper and B, you can reasonably just leave alone and let her work her magic within her ult. If you notice the buy and the economy that they had, Jet had an op. And Jet's just watching this angle right here. So you could go help her. Maybe you could play something like Waterfall, right? So maybe this Breach can come over here, and that Breach can use something like his stun in order to try and, let me just move this way. He could use something like his stun after an initial push, or something like a flash to maybe kind of back them off. But generally speaking, if you're playing Breach, and you've got somebody with an op, you usually want that op to kind of take the contact. You don't want them to, push back based off of a flash. That's really what you're doing with something like a flash, is pushing this enemy back behind cover and you want them to peek out of cover in order to run into this op, right? In gold and plat lobbies, you can make an argument for they're probably going to miss their shot with the op, so you want to try to help them out. Totally fair. So I can see why some people might choose C in this instance. For those of you that chose A, congratulations, you were right. And here's why. I would bet money that a lot of you probably didn't choose A because of the fact that, one, there were 2 people here, and 2, we have 2 tripwires. Totally fair assumption to make. I think that that is a good idea in theory. However, what I want to illustrate with the way that this round played out and the way that you should be thinking as a breach main, or not just a breach main, just in general as this person that was kind of stuck up here, you have to think about this as kind of like a process of elimination, so to speak, right? The way that I just broke this down should give you a hint on how you should break things down within the space of a round, right? If you're this breach here, your first thought should be, okay, where's my fault line and my flash going to be most effective for my team? Is it on B? No, because she's got her ult. There's nothing that I can really do here to help her out, because by the time they even get to Viper, they're going to be 1 HP. So she just has to hit 1 shot. Is my fault line, or is my aftershock, or is my blind going to help out on C pretty effectively? Maybe, but realistically, there's not much that I can do here because we want him to try to get a pick with the op pretty clearly. So my utility is actually going to go against that goal. Okay, so if I can't go to B, right? If B is out of the picture because we have Viper there, if C is out of the picture because we have op there, then reasonably the only place that I can help out is A, right? So that's step 1. Where is my utility going to be the most effective? In this instance, his utility is going to be most effective helping out the players on A, right? If they come through tree and they open this door, he can use his fault line going straight this direction to help out with the push. If they, for example, destroy some of these trips, at one point you saw the breach kind of reposition down here. He could absolutely fault line all of this to help out the Cypher. There's so much more for breach to do here to help on A than there is on either of these 2 sites. So step 1, where's my utility the most effective? Great. Now let's talk about step 2. And this is getting into the world of like reading the enemy, right? Reading where they are and what they're doing based off what you have going on in your team composition within the map. You know that this op has sight onto all of C. You saw it later in the round. They tried, I think Fade at one point dogged up C. He kind of pushed back a bit and then he pushed right back out. He had full line of sight into C. So he knows, or you should know at this point, C, not happening, because we have control of Mount. So we know the enemy is not there. Likewise, process of elimination, step 2. You have Viper here with her ult. Sure, they could all 5 just be sitting inside of the ult like a bunch of weirdos. But realistically, that's a super weird scenario to happen, and there's almost no way that that's going to happen. So you can read the enemy by saying, okay, we have control of B. They're not here. What we don't have control of is all of this right here. We don't know if they're pushing up rubble. We don't know if they're already into breakable here. We have no idea what's going on over here. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is not just how you can use what your team is doing on the site to try and figure out where you might be most complementary to your team, but use what your team is doing on each site to figure out where the enemy is, right? You know they're not C because we have this full line of sight into it. You know they're more than likely not going to B and not in B main because we have Viper ult. So then they're almost certainly here in rubble or breakable, pushing up into A, because this whole area of the map right here, all of this is completely off limits to them. They can't go here, they cannot go here, and so the only direction for them to go is here. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, think about subscribing to the channel or liking the video. Thanks for watching, and go apply what you've learned in game.